Hello everyone, and welcome to Galaxy 89 Cars. Today, thanks to the team at Joe Macari Performance Cars, I'm bringing you an in-depth exterior and interior tour and exhaust video for this 2019 Ferrari 812 Superfast. At the time of publishing, Joe Macari Performance Cars have this, in addition to many of the high specification cars for sale, and all of their contact details can be found in the description of the video. The 812 Superfast takes over Ferrari's V12 production car line from its predecessor, F12, and in doing so, also becomes the most powerful and fastest production car Ferrari have ever made. To do this, it has inherited quite a bit from F12 TDF, as we shall see throughout the video. Here finished in Nero Daytona, but constructed mainly from aluminium with carbon panels, 812 comes in at 4,657mm long, 39mm longer, 1,971mm wide, 29mm wider, 1,276mm high, 3mm taller, and has a curb weight of 1630kg, the same as F12, and weight distribution of 47% at the front and 53% at the rear. Now moving to 812's powertrain. To access the engine bay, a small red lever needs to be used to unlatch the bonnet. Then walking around to the front, a small catch needs to be moved to the left before the bonnet can be raised up and self-supported on two struts. 812 is powered by a front-mounted 6.5-litre, naturally aspirated V12, which is 200cc bigger than an F12. This produces 789 brake horsepower and 718 Nm of torque, up by 59 brake horsepower and 28 Nm on F12. This output results in a 0 to 62 mph or 100 km/h time of 2.9 seconds, and a top speed of 211 mph or 340 km/h, respectively reduced by 0.2 seconds, and the same as F12. Now looking at the engine directly, we can also take note of the positions for engine oil on the right and brake fluid on the left. Once finished in the front, the bonnet can be lowered back down and fixed into position with a firm depress. This car is sitting on the optional front and rear 20-inch forged Nürburgring silver wheels with red calipers behind. Braking comes from as standard Brembo carbon ceramic discs at its corner, previously found on LaFerrari. These are 398mm at the front and 360mm at the rear, improving braking performance by 5.8% over F12. Stability comes from adaptive dampers, with front independent double wishbones and rear independent multi-links, both with coil springs and stiffening struts. There's also a new four-wheel steering system called Virtual Short Wheelbase 2.0 that can help the car to be more agile and stable, but also alleviate understeer. At the rear, we also find Ferrari's new third-generation differential called eDiff3. Now we've finished the model overview, we can start the exterior in-depth tour from front to back. Much of the carbon seen here is from the optional exterior carbon pack. The front of 812 starts with an extended splitter, with two openings to allow air to flow over and under, where it's accelerated and directed by updated aero components at the rear. Above this, there's a wide open intake with a grille instead of the chrome struts in F12. On either side of the central intake, there are intake ducts for brake cooling. To the outside of these are further intakes. The bottom is called Mobile Aero and consists of a flap that's closed until 180 km/h, where it opens to reduce drag. These lateral air channels ensure air flows more closely to the body, reducing the car's wake and reducing overall drag. The main light complexes are above these and are comprised of a bottom LED complex, main beam centrally, and a second LED complex above. Moving inwards, we find two new air vents that further help the big V12 to breathe. The long, sculpted bonnet is behind. In comparison to the bonnet on F12, the central air vent has been removed here, and instead, the central bulge runs all the way back. The large, lateral intakes from F12 have been replaced by these more subtle bonnet-mounted intakes, but the sculpted lines to direct air along the side of the car are still present. Continuing back, we come to the large windscreen with two wipers below. 812 inherits the dynamic lines on either side of the roof from F12. We can now move to the lateral aspect of 812. It starts with this extended satin side skirt. Above this, there's a new air vent just behind the front wheel arches. This helps air to flow more freely, thus aiding stability. Above these vents are small indicators and scooter rear shields in the same position as in F12. The electrically adjustable wing mirrors above have a new, more streamlined aesthetic. The rear angle of the door handles that are below and behind has been inverted, so now comes at the top. These are joined by a physical key input, just as in F12. Moving up and back, we come to new rear lateral intakes behind the rear quarter windows. These are called aero bypass and work with the vents behind to allow air to flow through the car for better streamlining. Sitting over the rear right wheel arch is the fuel tank flap. It can be opened by depressing it thanks to its spring action. 812's fuel tank has a max capacity of 92 litres and returns a combined MPG of 14.7. Once finished with, it can be closed with another light depress. Moving back up to the roof, we find this slim panel that comes with an integrated LED brake light strip, just like an F12. Below this, the form of the rear window has been inverted in comparison to F12, now widening from top to bottom. The air vents that sit over the rear arches in F12 now run across the arches rather than along the inside. These vents release air from the aero bypass intakes we saw earlier. Air from this and the rest of the car passes over the subtle ductile spoiler at the rear. The spoiler actively contributes to increased downforce and sits 30mm higher than that in F12, just as in F12 TDF. We can now move to the very rear of 812. Instead of one rear light complex on either side, there are now two. These have a far more sculpted 3D effect and come with smaller LEDs. Moving down, there are new air vents that help to release air from inside the rear arches, once again contributing to better stability. Below these, the quad exit exhaust, here with the optional black ceramic tips, is wrapped in optional carbon surrounds on either side. Centrally, the rear diffuser now fills the gap between the exhaust instead of being intersected by aesthetic lines as in F12. There are multiple flaps below this that open by 17 degrees to reduce drag at high speeds. Underneath there are three curves, called air dams, that enhance 812's underbody aerodynamics by 30% over F12, matching F12 TDF. Let's now hear how 812 sounds. Now we've finished the exterior in-depth tour, we can move inside. 812 comes with just a fob with 4 buttons: unlock, lock, open the boot and flash the lights. Now moving inside, the doors can be opened easily by pulling the small handles. The interior of 812 is more of an evolution than revolution of that in the F12. The layout is generally the same, but the materials and features feel much more refined, with this car being upholstered in charcoal leather and Alcantara with Rosso contrast stitching. We can now start the interior in-depth tour with the doors, with comparisons made to F12's interior. The top leather panel now features less joints and flows more seamlessly into the Alcantara below. Underneath, the armrest is now integrated into the Alcantara upholstered panel and its leather pad has been removed. The door release remains in the same place, but the redesigned handle now comes with more padding than before. The new handle design is one piece of aluminium and comes with boot release, seat memory and electric mirror controls integrated into it. The Alcantara upholstered panel now extends below the armrest and handle and is finished with a JBL speaker from the 12-speaker system that was specifically designed for 812. The interior of the door finishes with this more integrated open storage area. Moving to the right, the car is low, but the sill isn't too wide, so ingress and egress is a straightforward process. Here, the sill is covered by this Ferrari embossed kickplate. Moving up, we come to the bonnet release, parking brake, exterior light controls, buttons for the left screen and cruise control, and the first manually adjustable air vent. This car comes with the optional carbon fibre interior upgrade. The previously angular steering wheel in the F12 has been softened and rounded here. This one comes with carbon at the top and gear changing lights, leather at the 9 and 3 grip positions, with controls for left indicator, beam settings, bumpy road mode and engine start-stop to the left. Voice controls and calls centrally, and Manatino to change driving modes, wiper jets, wiper speed and right indicator to the right. Behind and on either side we find the long gear paddles for the 7-speed F1 dual-clutch transmission. The car has keyless entry and keyless start, and can be started by depressing the red engine start-stop button. Once pressed, the shift lights illuminate, and the dual screen display comes to life. The instrument cluster ahead is broken into 3, from left to right, screen for drive modes and car setup, revs and gear change centrally, and screen for the car's infotainment system to the right. As just mentioned, the left screen shows how the different driving modes affect various systems, such as traction control, 4-wheel steering and the differential, with all of these settings being adjusted with the Manatino on the right side of the wheel. Moving to the right screen, we find Ferrari's updated user interface, where we start with the digital speedo, here in kilometers per hour. Controls for the FM and DAB digital radio come next. Media is after, to manage media via Bluetooth, USB or aux inputs. Then the sat-nav display, where destinations can be manually input or chosen from recents or favourites. Phone comes after for hands-free calls and messages. The final menu is for settings, where the user can adjust display, audio, language and unit, and climate. The dash behind holds the general form of that in F12, but is now more refined. It's upholstered with leather and an optional red stripe centrally. The optional carbon fibre driving zone extends out to the air vents that can be easily directed around the cabin and opened and closed. Moving left, we come to the controls for the vehicle lift, parking sensors and a reversing camera, and the control array for the right screen, with volume, favourites, home and return, and the scroll wheel. To the right of this, we come to the new digital displays for the dual zone aircon. These are previously analog controls in F12. The controls for each zone and fan speed are below and are joined by zone air direction, front and rear demist, recirculation and AC. Moving down, we come to the central control bridge, finished in optional gloss carbon. If we take a closer look, we find drive control buttons for, from top to bottom, reverse, automatic mode, launch control and hazard lights. There's also an open storage area below the bridge. Continuing back, we come to the electric window controls. Behind this is the single adjustable cup holder, adjustable thanks to these flaps on either side. Towards the rear of the central column, we come to this Alcantara upholstered armrest that doubles as a lid to the central storage area. It is magnetically fastened, so it can be opened up just by lifting it up. Inside we find a slim storage area with USB and 12-volt inputs. Moving back from this, we come to the model name plaque and rear storage areas. On either side of the central column, we find the standard electrically adjustable seats, but upholstered with an optional Rosso stripe and contrast headrest embroidery. All of the controls for movement can be found to the sides. To move into the rear of the cabin, the seats can be easily moved forward by pulling the leather tab to the outside shoulder. As you can see, there is some space behind the seats, further facilitated by netting, and above, the iconic GT-style belting on the rear parcel shelf. Moving back around briefly, we can first look through the optional passenger display. This has been significantly updated over that in the F12, and comes with options to view media, navigation, real-time performance and to view Manatino settings. Below this screen, we come to the far more sculpted glove compartment that takes some design inspiration from the 458 Speciales. It can be opened by pressing the button to the left and offers a very usable amount of storage. Once closed, we can move outside to view the car's remaining storage area in the boot, which can be opened by pressing the button on the driver's side or that on the key. A812 offers a total storage capacity of 320 litres here, with 500 litres in total including what's available in the cabin. Taking a closer look, we find the medkit and car cover to the left with an indentation, illumination, the spec list and removable parcel shelf. Once finished in the rear, the boot lid can easily be closed with a firm depress. Now moving back inside briefly, we can view the car's final few features. On either side there are slim, leather upholstered sun visors. However, only the passengers come with a vanity mirror. Moving centrally, we come to two button arrays. The first is for the reading lights, and the second row is for stop-start, internal lock and tow preparation. And moving down, the auto-dimming rearview mirror is last. So that concludes my in-depth exterior and interior tour and exhaust video of this 2019 Ferrari 812 Superfast that, at the time of publishing, is for sale with Joe Macari Performance Cars. All of their contact details can be found in the description of the video. Please subscribe for the latest content, and until next time, thanks for watching.